The static voice in the old radio. When I moved into my new apartment, a small place in an old building downtown, I wanted to give it some character. I found this beautiful antique radio at a flea market, a huge, ornate wooden thing from the 40s. It was a purely aesthetic purchase. I didn't even expect it to work. But to my surprise, when I plugged it in, it crackled to life, pulling in faint jazz stations and old news reports. I loved it. The first few nights, I'd fall asleep to the gentle hum of forgotten broadcasts. Then, about a week in, I started noticing something odd. Around 3 a.m., the radio, which I usually turned off, would sometimes emit a low, persistent static. I'd get up, turn it off, and go back to bed, assuming I'd forgotten or it was a power surge. But it kept happening, and then the static changed. It wasn't just white noise anymore, it was laced with whispers. Very faint, almost imperceptible, like someone talking from another room through a thick wall. I'd lean closer, straining to hear, but it was always just beyond comprehension. It gave me a strange, crawling sensation like being watched. One night the whispers were clearer. I was lying in bed, trying to ignore the persistent static when I distinctly heard my name, Sarah. It was distorted, stretched out, and sounded wet almost. I sat bolt upright, my heart pounded. I tried to tell myself it was the old radio, the bad signal, my imagination, but I knew it wasn't. I left it off for a few days, but the silence felt heavier, more oppressive than the static. I foolishly turned it back on. The old radio was back to playing normal stations, but the sense of unease never left. Then came the night I knew I had to get out. It was a stormy night, rain lashing against my window. I was reading in bed and the radio was on low, playing some classical music. Suddenly, the music dissolved into that familiar, thick static. My stomach dropped, but this time there were no whispers. Instead, a voice deep and gravelly pushed through the static. It wasn't loud, but it was clear, and it was undeniably directed at me. "You left it off, Sarah. You shouldn't have done that." I froze, my book slid from my hands. Every hair on my arm stood on end. The voice paused, the static surging and receding like waves. Then it spoke again, even lower, almost a growl. "You forgot something in the kitchen, Sarah. Look behind you." I didn't dare look. I knew with a horrifying certainty that there was nothing there, but the way the voice said it. It was too real, too close. I scrambled out of bed, grabbed my keys and phone, and practically ripped the radio's plug from the wall. The static instantly died, leaving a ringing silence that felt louder than any noise. I didn't pack anything else. I didn't look back. I ran out of the apartment, down the stairs, and out into the stormy night. I spent the rest of the night driving aimlessly, then at a friend's place, too terrified to explain why I was there. I never went back to that apartment to live. My landlord cleared out my things, and I told them to just dispose of the radio. I don't know what it was or what it wanted, but I know I'll never buy another antique radio again. Some things are best left in the past.